It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Welcome to The New Next, a podcast that addresses current events and how they will impact the future. Switzerland considers electric vehicle ban to avoid blackouts. Again, just some pretext from this. When we watched that documentary about renewable energy, it completely shifted a lot of stuff for me mindset-wise, especially as we've done more and more research on this podcast. In theory, some of these things like electric vehicles and renewable energy sounds nice. There's ramifications that were not considered at the time we really push for some of these things.
If you're going to create like an optimal transition to renewable energy sources and nuclear, if that's what you want to do, you're probably not going to go first at trying to create tons of electric vehicles. You have a grid that has a stable amount of electricity capacity that can theoretically put out. And on another electrical or kind of energy bucket, you have the energy that's created by oil. When you get rid of that oil energy that's created, that's new energy that has to be created on the grid side. So if the grid's not growing, it has more of those stress points where at peak points, like Switzerland's talking about during the winter to avoid blackouts, banning electric vehicles, is their grid can't handle the stress and this other added stuff to it. Vehicles is the easiest to market. By this, you're going to be saving the environment. That's the easiest one to explain. And I think that's why it's been moved first. But there's all this background infrastructure that hasn't been built, from the minerals to everything else, that having it out of sight, out of mind is going to create a scenario where there's a lot of problems. It's going to be in environmental destruction, because there's not really any focus on where the stuff comes, just that you need the goods to build the cars. But on the other side, is the grid being built proportionally to handle the excess electrical pulls? And I don't feel like there's enough emphasis being put on that. And at least in the US, our infrastructure is not built to handle cars. So everything from the infrastructure in neighborhoods to even, in many cases, the electrical lines that go to your house aren't capable of handling the pulls for it. There's a lot of these little things that have to be adjusted that you're talking about, at least in the US, like a trillion or trillions of dollars of electrical lines, digging holes in the ground and relaying new stuff. I'm not here to argue against whether or not this should be done, at least in this context. My point is, I wish people actually paid attention to that, and that was more of a forefront discussion rather than just getting consumers to change behavior.
I think even mentioning like lines getting relayed and stuff underground, how much of a pain and a hassle that is. In my neighborhood, they recently were laying down new lines for various types of fiber and whatnot, and everybody on my block hated seeing these trucks. Like, we were so happy when they finally left. That's extra money. We might get the savings 50 years from now, but we're spending all the hard money. Our electric bills are going to go up as they have people go and lay the lines.
We just need to start being realistic about it. Yeah. There's been a lot of, well, let's ignore this thing because it's going to shock people. And then you get to that point and then people are like, well, this is shocking. That's not going to work, right? Laying the groundwork so people understand what you're getting into. So when things don't work like you expect, then people aren't shocked. They're a little bit more understanding about it and have an eye on the long-term vision. I have a friend that bought a house a while back and they had power lines in front of it. They talked to the city about how much it would cost for them to basically put them underground. I think it was like $130,000 or something like that. So it's not cheap to put them underground, which is ideally what you're going to do. So you don't have to worry about them falling over and causing fires like in California. Over the next 40 years, we're going to rebuild our entire country from the whole wiring, the foundation, concrete. I don't think we're prepared for where we're going.
If you would like to learn more about the New Next podcast, find us at thenewnextpodcast.com, where you can suggest a topic you would like for us to cover. If you enjoyed what you heard, share the podcast, tell a friend about it, or rate us with 5 stars.